Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Today is going to be an amazing and a memorable day, I'm sure. And we are joined by our awesome, powerful women of the Trailblazer community. And I'm sure it's going to be a load of information, inspiration, motivation, and many things today. We have Gilda, Andrea, Dawn, Marisa, Melissa, Shannon, Gemma, Tracy, and myself. And we have so many swag as well today, and thankful to the swag sponsors, the Trailblazer community, Hands-on Connect, Cloud Adoption Solutions, Accent, and Cercante. So throughout the event, we will be announcing some activities for you to do. So one of them will be the duck race. We'll have it sometime during the event, and we have Kahoot at the end of the session. And also there is a social activity to share your key takeaways from this session. And we will pick the best answer and we will choose the winner from that activity. And we do have another activity that will be based on the Tracy's session that we're going to see in a couple of minutes. So be ready to post. And also these are the social handles that you can post. I'm going to clearly give the handles that you have to use when you're posting your tweets for any social activity. You can take a screenshot of this and keep it handy. And I think Isha will also be sending these social handles in the chat window. And the session is going to be recorded, and you will have the recording after the session. We will email you the recording. And before we kick off the panel, we do have a short presentation by Tracy. This is for us to find our positives, our strengths, and feel confident. So just a little bit about Tracy. Tracy is a 12-time certified Salesforce expert, an educator, a creator, and a gamer. And she began her career as an advocate for girls and young women at Girls INC, and she transitioned to Salesforce. And then while working with Salesforce, she found a way to blend her love of advocacy and her talent for adult learning and education. So she is also recognized as a gold tier facilitator, and she is one of the 100 most active and successful I Am Remarkable facilitators in the world. So without further ado, I will transfer it to Tracy. And Tracy, I'm gonna stop my screen share and make you the center. You can take it over, Tracy.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm going to share. I am not a Zoom expert. I should probably, based off of what I'm talking about, I should phrase that differently. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Can everybody confirm? Can you see my slide that says, "My name is Tracy"? All right.
You can.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, thank you so much, JB, for that introduction. I'm going to repeat a little bit of it as I introduce myself today, but I am so excited to be here with you. I'm Tracy Windy Connect, and I'm a Marketing Cloud Architect in our Marketing Cloud Solutions operating unit at Salesforce. I've had tons of different roles in my time in the Salesforce ecosystem. So JB mentioned I used to work at Girls Incorporated, which is a nonprofit. I was an end user there. I've been a trainer with Salesforce. I've also written content for Trailhead Academy and also for the broader Trailhead team. And personally, I am a stepmom to a 14-year-old. I'm a total nerd, so may the 4th be with all of you. I like to craft and paint in my spare time, and you can see some of my favorite projects here. One is this really fun card game to help people study for the administrator certification called Astro's Magic Show. And the other one you can actually complete right now on Trailhead, if you haven't already, is Mars XP, where you actually go to Mars with Astro and friends and you help fix a broken rover. And just a fun fact about me, I love Animal Crossing so much. I've played over 800 hours since the newest game was released last year. You can see a picture here of me with my best friend Kid Cat, and I see Melissa's May the 4th background. And so me and Kid Cat were hanging out on Muscle Beach, and we're getting really buff in Animal Crossing. So JB and I know each other through a program called I Am Remarkable. And I Am Remarkable is a Google initiative. It's a 90-minute workshop that empowers women and underrepresented groups to speak openly about their accomplishments in the workplace and beyond. And as JB mentioned, I'm recognized by Google as one of the top 100 most active and successful facilitators in the world. But saying that always feels really weird and like I'm bragging, even though I do the workshop about why it's okay to promote yourself. So even now, after doing this for years, it still feels really weird to say that. So JB contacted me and asked me to talk about one of the topics in I'm Remarkable today. And I thought there's so many that I could talk about right now. There's the importance of self-promotion, there's allyship, there's unconscious bias, how to craft the perfect elevator pitch, tons and tons of possibilities. And then I saw this tweet on Twitter, and I'm looking at this picture here and I'm thinking, one of these pictures is not like the other to me, because I am such a fan of all of the women in this tweet. And I cannot even call out a specific woman on this slide because all of you have inspired me so much. And I was like, JB, did you mean to invite me to speak with all of these amazing women today? And in that moment of me looking at this slide and feeling like I don't belong and like I am a total fraud, I knew exactly what I needed to talk to you all about today. So I want to do a really quick poll. And can everybody confirm you can see the poll up on my screen now? So you can pull out your phone, or you can go to pollev.com/astro. The phone's probably easier. And if you text Astro to 22333, then you're able to answer this poll. So the poll is, do you ever feel like your accomplishments aren't that special, like you were quote unquote just doing your job, or like you got lucky? So open up your text messages and text Astro to 22333 and let me know, does that feel that way all the time? Do you feel that way sometimes, or do you never feel that way? And just let me know. And I'm just waiting on a few our answers to pop up. So once you text Astro to 22333, it'll let you know that you've joined my session, and then you can text your answer. So either A, B, or C here. And let's see. I'm not getting any of my responses here. It is active though, yes. Let's toggle these. There we go. Sorry, I had to toggle my responses there. Looks like we're pretty evenly divided 50-50 here. So either all the time or sometimes. Nobody said never, which doesn't surprise me actually. So I'll hop back over here, and you all have probably guessed it, but I want to talk to you today about imposter syndrome. So 70% of people feel imposter syndrome, which is why I'm not surprised that we had an all the time or sometimes response over, because the majority of people feel imposter syndrome. So imposter syndrome, you can see here, is loosely defined as, so it's generally high achieving people who feel like they're going to get found out, that you're a fraud or you're an imposter, and that, you know, someday everybody's going to find out you've just been faking it all along, and that you aren't as smart as people think you are. You aren't as accomplished as you think you are. And that you don't really deserve all of the attention that you get. So I mentioned, so some of the symptoms of imposter syndrome are you're high achieving. You want to be the best at what you do. You're a perfectionist, which I can relate to quite a bit. You overestimate others while you underestimate yourself. You deny your abilities, or you attribute them to external factors like luck, or somebody made a mistake, or you just work a lot harder than everybody else. You fear failure, which is a big one. So you're not as willing to take risks, and you're worried about being discovered as a fraud. So those are some of the things that are that are symptoms of imposter syndrome. Let's come back to another poll here and let's see if you relate to this. So does this sound like you? All of those things: perfectionist, desire to be the best, fear of failure. Go ahead and answer the poll here. So you can either say, yes, that's me. A few of those sound like me, or I rarely or never feel any of those things. Do you relate to these statements? Let's see. I'm going to go ahead, and I think I've got a little lag here. Oh, all right. You can see some of the numbers moving here a little bit. So some of you say, yes. A few of those sound like you, and then some of you rarely or never feel any of those things. So it looks like we're pretty spread across the top, and then just a few of us maybe rarely or never feel the need to be a perfectionist, or that you just got lucky, or things like that. Well, so for those of us who do feel those things, we are in good company. I have a quote here. I have written 11 books, but each time I think, uh-oh, they're going to find out now. I've run a game on everybody and they're going to find me out. Does anybody recognize this quote? Do you know who said this? I see Gemma's nodding. I cannot, it's wild to me that this is Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou had imposter syndrome. And she's not alone. Michelle Obama, Lady Gaga, Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, so many of us have these thoughts. And the reason it matters is because when we have imposter syndrome, it leads us to believe that we can never make a mistake. We have to prove to others that we belong. We're not as good as everyone thinks, and it can lead you to feeling burnt out. It can lead you to feeling like you're lucky to be in the job that you have, or the role that you have, or have the salary that you have. It makes us fear failure, so we take less risks. And for me, instead of fighting off imposter syndrome, I think it's important to recognize it, invite it in, and explore and establish when you feel it and why you feel it. So if I bring it back full circle to when I'm looking at that slide of all of the amazing women who are here today, that was definitely a trigger for me. I was like, oh my gosh, these women are so amazing. Do I belong on this slide? And so when you have those triggers, examine them, think about what's going on in your head. And then I have a couple of tactics for you to sort of combat imposter syndrome. So after you invite it in, you feel it, these are some things that we can do to start to re-trigger our trigger, so to speak. And the first is to stop comparing yourself to others. So many of us have probably heard the expression that comparison is the thief of joy. I really like this quote by Iyanla Vanzant. Comparison is an act of violence against the self. I think so often it's really easy to say what is negative about ourselves, and this especially comes out when we see someone else succeeding in a way that seems effortless. But it's so important to remember that we don't see everything that everyone has done. So we all have our own unique experiences, and while someone else's experience might seem effortless to us, it's likely not effortless to them. So the only person that you're in competition with is yourself. Tackle things with that better, never best mentality personally, but not in competition with others. The second is to find what is positive. So I actually had some very different talking points here earlier this morning, and I was speaking to a friend and a colleague of mine, and she challenged me, even in the language I was using here was negative. It was very focused on finding the positive in failure. And she was like, I'm not sure that's really the right language when we're thinking about finding the positivity in things. And so I changed this up a bit to really focus on defining what winning means for you. Look for the positives in everything. And I'll share a personal story. Earlier this year, I got on a real fitness kick, and I decided I wanted to lose 10 pounds by June. And by March, I had lost like 3 pounds, and I was feeling really frustrated, and I was feeling like a failure. until I started to think about some of the other things that I had accomplished. And I'm putting up here all of my running personal bests this year. And you can see all of them happened within about a month of each other because I was really focused on my fitness in that time frame. And so instead of focusing on the scale and losing weight or whatever, I have these other positives that I can focus on. And I ran a half marathon. Like, why wasn't I even focusing on that? I was really, really fixated on something that really wasn't the win for me. So that's the second tactic I have for you. And my friend this morning, when we were talking about this, she said, just to remember that going forward is a pace. So when you're running and you're very focused on your pace, some people get so focused on like, oh, I want to run an 8-minute mile or whatever. But just showing up is the success when it comes to things like running or really whatever we do. And then the last one I have here is to celebrate. So not only do you want to recognize those positives, but you also want to celebrate them. Keep a log of your accomplishments, big and small. I always recommend that people pull open a document every Wednesday and just write down all the things you've accomplished in the last week, because if you only do it once a month or once a quarter, you'll forget all the things that you've done all week. One of the best pieces of advice that I've recently received is to find a celebration partner and verbalize the things that you're proud of together. So this has been really, really good for me in celebrating my accomplishments, but also it helps you to start verbalizing your accomplishments and to start feeling comfortable promoting yourself. And I think it's really important to recognize how great you are, both personally and professionally. So I just put a personal accomplishment up on the screen with my running, and personal accomplishments are actually harder for me to recognize than my work accomplishments. And you might notice that work is more important for you or personal is more important for you. And it really is all about finding that balance and recognizing that you are amazing at home and at work. So with that, and speaking of how amazing you are, I want to do one last poll, and it is why you're amazing. So go ahead and type in to your text a reason why you are amazing. And we should see those start to scroll onto the screen. I might have to toggle again like I did a little bit earlier. I'm just going to toggle this real quick. There we go. And while you do that, it might take you just a few seconds to type up a reason why you are amazing. I'll give you a moment. And I have a homework assignment for you as soon as you're done. Let's see if I can get these to pop up. There we go. I am a caring friend. Hands down, a beautiful human being with a giant-sized heart. I'm a great friend. Love these. I'm a multitasker. I envy that for sure. I'm not a multitasker. I'm having trouble just like reading this and talking to you all at the same time. If I were to put one here, I'm not going to because I'm not a multitasker, so I can't type it in. But I would say I'm amazing because I bring value to every conversation. What else? Other reasons why you're amazing? All right, everyone. Well, I have a homework assignment for you, and that is to share why you're amazing on Twitter with me and JB. So take your amazing statement that you just wrote out and tweet it out to us. Use the Trailblazer community and Mompreneur hashtags and tag me and JB, and you have an opportunity to win swag. So that's it for me. I want to thank you all so very much for being here today and for chatting with me. And I admire all of you so much. And I'm going to turn it back over to you, JB.
Thank you very much, Tracy. This is so informational and this is really helpful. And I remember the key things that you have mentioned during the I Am Remarkable session, and that really helped me to feel confident and to create a brand for myself. Really appreciate you for all the insights that you have shared. I'm going to quickly share my screen So these are the social handles one more time. Please use the hashtags Trailblazer Community, Mompreneurs, and make sure to tag Tracy and me, and mention why you are amazing. So we are going to pick the best answers from those social tweets. And next up, we will be moving to the most awaited panel discussion with all these amazing women. And Gilda is going to moderate the panel.
Oh, the spotlight is on me. Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you for coming. Delighted to have you all with us. Thank you for carving time out of your busy schedule to do this. But I am just happy to be in a room with some of these amazing caregivers, mom, and thought leaders. We are really looking forward to have an interesting conversation, a celebration of mothers and caregivers. And each of you, I've interacted with all of you. You all have some really, inspiring stories to share. So my first question for each of you is, I would love for you to share with us, the name of someone that has been pivotal in your career and the journey that you're currently going on, and how has that really impacted you? So I would love to start with, because the fourth is with us today, I am going to start with Melissa.
Thank you, Gilda. Actually, I have to credit two people in the Salesforce community, specifically two women who really made an impact on my career, and not just my career, but the way I thought about it, right? And one of those people was Chris Duarte. And she did a presentation of the very first Witness Success. And her husband was there, and he's a stay-at-home husband. And at my age and stage in life, it was, I guess, a little disconcerting to me that my husband had taken on so much of the household responsibilities and the raising of the child. It was like a role reversal thing for me. And as someone in my generation, that was kind of like, oh, I don't know, maybe I'm supposed to be able to do all of that, you run around and fry up the bacon and bring it home and everything else. And Chris's presentation and her fabulous husband just really impressed on me that they were an example of the way that we could be, right? The other person that really, and probably doesn't even realize this, because again, it was a presentation that Gemma Blizzard made, and I think we were actually in Paris. And I had never considered being an architect. That's, I'm not going to learn to code. That is not going to happen in this lifetime. But she made me believe that I could be an architect, that again, that it was a mindset, not more than it was a set of skills. It was a mindset. And that really did so much for my confidence. I'm working my way up that ladder. I want Ruth, Dom. I want to be that, at least a solutions architect. And Gemma made me believe that that could be possible.
So we're going to pass it over to you, Gemma. Who has made an impact in your journey?
Right at the point where Melissa made me all emotion. Who's been an impact on my journey? Several people, but a few years ago when I was at World Tour London and I was asked to come and receive the Golden Hoodie, I had two very special people with me there, who I considered bookends of my career in a way, because there was a lady called Julie Drysdale, who is the first person I ever worked with back in 2008 when I started out as an admin supporting people on the sales floor. Julie was the one who taught me how to help myself when I was asking Salesforce to help me. Things like, how do you prepare the support case you're about to log and make it useful so that your agent can support you? Back then we had a business support business partner per account, back when before they had issues with scaling that. But she taught me a lot about different ways to consider a problem rather than jumping to a conclusion and saying, this doesn't work. she would encourage me to investigate the problem and to articulate it in such a way that wasn't just about the technology, but it was about the wider impact of what I was asking for assistance with. So I was I've always considered her a very special person, because, and she would say, oh, I didn't do anything that special, because, you know, British understatement, but equally she had a huge impact because she taught me to think that way. So that set me up on the right foot for my career as a 24-year-old person starting out. And then on the other side of it was Andrew. Andrew was my boss at Blue Wolf. He happens to be a CTA. But Andrew is the one who basically understood what motivates me, took the time to get to know me as a person, and said to me, have you ever thought about doing the CTA? And I was like, well, no, that's something other people do. And I still feel that way, actually. Even having been round the cycle, I've completely changed my perspective on the CTA as a result. But he was the one who said to me, I said, no, that's something other people do. And I actively choose not to code. And he said, well, you've been doing this 10 years. Do you understand what's happening in an Apex class when you read it? I said, well, yeah, but I've had to learn that myself on the job. And he said, if you can do that, you can pass PD1. And if you can pass PD1, you can get to the top, you can get double domain certified, and then be ready to think about the CTA if that's something you're interested in. And he said, you don't have to, you know, make any decisions, just go and think about it. Came back I went home, slept, came back the next day. All right, then, you've gone and done it now, haven't you? And he's like, done what? And the reason that he is such an influential character for me in my career is that he, like I say, took the time to understand what would light a fire under my ass, and just planted an idea, slowly threw the grenade in and walked back and let me carry on doing the rest myself. And that I find to be quite inspiring as a form of leadership.
Me too. I love that tactic of leadership as well, where it's, you know, they're giving you that extra oomph that you need, and now they're just letting you fly now that you have your wings. And what about you, Shannon? Who would you say was really pivotal in helping you with your career?
You know, it is a same sort of story of forced engagement. I had a boss, Bob. I was working in, I actually was a proposal manager. I was writing proposals. I had a degree in English literature. It made sense. And he was an interesting guy to be at the head of sales. He was a Mormon. He didn't drink at sales meetings. People thought that was very bizarre. And he called me into his office one day and he said, you're not doing proposals anymore. And I immediately was like, I'm getting fired. Like, I can't, why am I getting fired? Like, I didn't mess anything up. What are we doing here? Yeah. And he said, we're starting a whole new department. It's called sales operations. You're going to do it. Now you manage proposals, contracts, pricing, inside sales, and Salesforce. And I said, woo, I like typing things into Salesforce. I don't want to manage Salesforce. And he said, it's time for you to do that. You've got to do that. And so that was in 2009. Bob also pushed me to get my MBA. Bob pushed me to get my PhD. And so I've been given that same sort of like, I'm going to put my hands on your back and help you see what's in front of you because you can do more. And I'm so, so thankful to have had that sort of gentle guidance.
And I'm going to turn it over to Marissa. Share with us who's been pivotal for you.
It's a really difficult question for me because it isn't just one person. I've been in tech for over 20 years, well over 20 years actually. And I have been both very fortunate to have extremely negative experiences as a woman in tech, but I also have an extremely supportive family and support system and community from my family of origin and my home of origin in El Paso, Texas. And having struggled through a career and trying to develop a career during a time when sexual harassment was very prevalent, racism, that colored my view of how my career was going to proceed. If I focus just on Salesforce, Jacqueline, Data Diva, Jack, would be the person that introduced me to the platform. But throughout my career journey, again, my journey with Salesforce, my mother, my parents, my sister, my children, they really have been the driving force behind all of it, even my business and my choices to become an entrepreneur. And so I look at all of my career moves through that lens. People within the Salesforce ecosystem, again, Jacqueline, she introduced me. I had never heard of Salesforce, and she was the one that introduced me to the platform. One of the first people that I ever met was Peter Coffey. He was actually a guest lecturer when I was going through my my master's program at Arizona State University, and I saw that as a sign that I needed to continue pursuing Salesforce. Some of the people I've just encountered so many different people. I think just the entire Salesforce community, the Ohana, just the way everybody comes together. Gemma putting out your blog and talking really candidly about your journey as an architect. Melissa, sharing in the nonprofit space. JB putting something like this together. I think that it's a lot of people coming together to help each other out. And I do believe that we rise by lifting others. And I think that it's just a general feeling that Salesforce as a product and a company supports that, and that kind of a community that allows for pivotal moments in not only in our lives, but in our careers, and as women, as mothers, as entrepreneurs. We need that so that we can propel ourselves forward, as well as helping others propel themselves forward.
Oh, I love that. I love the rise by lifting others. That's definitely one of my favorite mottos. So I would love to hear from my favorite two. So we're going to go to Andrea, if you would mind sharing with us what's made a pivotal way for you in your
Conversation is
career.
making me feel like super sentimental, because I'm like inventory. Marissa, to your point, there are so many people in my career that I feel like have helped me in such important ways. But the story that's coming to mind, which I've actually never told anybody before, but when I first started Sercante, I had pretty aggressive growth goals. And I feel like when you're first starting a business, people kind of treat you like a glorified freelancer, or assume that you're unemployed or something when you're trying to explain what you're trying to do. And so part of my intro spiel in the very early days of Sercante was, we're trying to like take over the Pardot universe. We're trying to hit 1 million in year 1. And I feel like the response I got from people was like, yeah, okay, cool. Like, you go ahead and do that. But the first person that I told that to that actually believed me was Adam Blitzer. I met him for the first time at an event, was fangirling super hard, told him that. And I could just see in his face, he was just like, yeah, okay, you probably will do that. And that was like the most validating moment, like early in our Sercante journey, that I will never forget. He probably has forgotten about it, but I will remember it for a really long time.
Adam is a pretty cool guy. I love his personality. And then Dominique.
Well, there's so much love in here today, just talking about, just, getting empowered, receiving empowerment and sharing empowerment with others to lift them up. And that has been something that I think that, I think back to the first women that I sought out, or they helped me. They lifted me up, and I didn't realize that I was going to them for that. But it was, it just, it was one of my first bosses. Her name's Sandy Miguel. This was when I was like 15. I started out, just as I got a job, and she empowered me to really understand sales, understand marketing, all of these different kind of things that were just so new and different for me to learn. But the thing that I always remember she said is to finish what you start. And I always have kept that with me. And when I was in art school, one of my teachers, her name is Linda Wyman, she changed my trajectory because I was thinking about what I was going to do when I was going to get out of school, and she helped pave the way. And she got me my first jobs in web design, which was like what's that? You know, this was in 1995. So it was like, what's the web? Yeah, and I became a web designer because of her. And then I think about you know, my life at Salesforce for over 8 years, and I think about Sarah Franklin and how much she has done, what she has done for me. She kind of just cleared the way for me to sing, and I really appreciate her for that. And you know, and then the last person that helped, that you know, was that they helped me and they changed my journey, is Astro. It was just an idea that turned into something really big, and it's helped me and my team be visible in a really big company, and it's created an opportunity for me to help others. And so I'm really, really excited about that, you know, and just that journey has been there for me, you know, just important women, important people. They open doors that I never knew would open.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It sounds like a lot of you, it's, you know, new roles, new opportunities, introduction to new career paths, but an introduction to new platforms, all took place because of a leader that believed in you. They uplifted you, they supported you, they were pushing you beyond your boundaries, encouraging you along the way to think outside the box. But I know that path to getting where you are today wasn't easy, especially as a caregiver, as a mom. Something else that I hear all the time, you know, especially for women, is that we have to find some balance. And I don't know who made this up. If somebody knows where balance is, point me to that direction, because for me, I struggle with balance. Balance for me is managing, you know, how I feel, being very in tune with like what's happening to me physiologically. And, you know, physiologically, for instance, if when my daughter was younger, if there's a bake sale at school and I had back-to-back meetings, I'm going to go to the local market. I'm going to buy some cookies. I'm going to put it on a pan. I'm going to cover it up and say, Mommy baked it. So I would love to hear from all of you, you know, how do you juggle all these things and maintain balance? Because, you know, a lot of you I interact with, and you're juggling so much for this ever-growing community. I mean, even being here, taking time out of your day to share with us, you know, your career path, your journey. Like, how do you all manage and maintain this thing called balance?
I can take that one if you want, Gilda. The answer is I don't. I never juggle these things. My life is quite stressful because I am so driven in my career, because I believe so fiercely in what I'm doing in the ecosystem and bringing my team into, with all the projects that we're trying to rescue or prevent catching fire in the first place. That keeps me driven. Somehow it gets to 10 o'clock at night and I finally sit down in front of the TV and go, Jesus, what just happened? And then rinse and repeat, get up again the next morning, you know. How do I juggle all these things? Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I am crying in my bed at night. Sometimes I have a lot more reason to cry these days, but the other way that I cope with it is to wake up every morning and look at my beautiful daughter and see the future that she has before her. And that is what keeps me going every day, because I know that actually by getting up and doing the thing that I care the most about, I'm showing her there is a point to her going to school, actually, that there's a point to her making friends with people, that there is a point to keeping herself safe from people and from situations that might put her at risk, and that all comes from learning as you go. From every single failure, there's a lesson in every single failure. And for me, what is the most important thing is that she sees the truth, and she sees that it's hard. And for me, what my biggest learning, if I could go back and do it all again, is to come up with a much better strategy for dealing with stress, because it is very stressful when you're trying to balance things, and you're also trying to promote yourself and your business and your vision, and you're trying to, you know, first of all, the first 5-6 years, keep them alive. Next part of it is keep them out of jail, right? So you're trying your hardest to do that. And I suppose it's really important that you manage your stress, because if you don't manage your stress, last week they hooked me up and they did my blood pressure. And for one moment I was a bit upset about something, and I saw my heart rate go up. And the minute I saw my heart rate go up, I thought, okay, what are we going to do, Jen? We're just going to take a minute. And the minute I took that moment just to try and be calm and clear my brain, my heart rate went down. And stress can have such a huge impact on your life and your body, the way that you think. It can distort the way that you think. It can distort the decisions that you make. Not having enough sleep is also a huge contributor to stress. Never mind all the external stuff that happens to you on the outside. So I suppose juggling this is all about understanding when there comes a point where you say, I can't take any more shit off you people. Everybody needs to just go away for a couple of weeks.
Off, right?
Any of you who are friends with me on Facebook would have seen my big piss off message that I did on Friday, where I was just like, everybody go away, I've had enough of you. And I think that being able to recognize when you're at breaking point and say, I'm out. Okay, nobody is able to drive the bus today, least of all me. That's a really strong point, is being able to say, this is too hard for me right now. And that's okay. Stop putting pressure on yourself to say, I have to be 150,000,000% all the time. I'm not. I am like 10% at the moment, for many, many reasons. But having a safe space to sit and think and to gather my thoughts, and then to actually say to my team, I don't want to do this kind of work anymore. I'm going to do this kind of work because that's what makes me happy. I think that that's a really strong thing to do. Sorry about the emotion and stuff. It's just
no, you know, and I love that, because, you know, I have a 17-year-old daughter, and the other morning, she put a pillow, and then she left a card underneath the pillow, and it was just thanking me for taking her away. We went on a little mini vacation, and then this past weekend we spent some time just walking down the streets and just enjoying, you know, downtown Boston area. And she just wrote me a thank you note, and, you know, and that to me is why I give 110% to everything that I do. I'd love to hear from others, like, you know, and let us know if we need tissues. I wasn't prepared for this, Jenna. I need some tissues. So
sorry.
Let us know how, well, you know, Melissa, Shannon, Marissa, like, how have you all balanced it all?
So I think, and I agree with Gemma. Sometimes it's not a matter of balancing, right? In fact,
is there another word we should use? I don't like that word. So if we can all come up with a new word, I'm okay with that.
I call it work-life integration.
New word, everyone.
Work-life integration, because love it. And I've been blessed for a long time to be able to, I've worked from home for 5 years now, right? And my daughter is 18. She's graduating from high school this year. And so I have loved my job for so many reasons, but one of the reasons I've loved it the most is I can pretty much set my own schedule, right? So if I need to take an hour, and if you've seen me looking away, she just came in, she had an interview for a scholarship. And so I'm anxious now, you know, to get off the call and go find out what they said. But generally, you know, I could take an hour and go and be with her at something at school, and then, I don't know, work until 7 or 8 o'clock, you know, or so it wasn't so much of, it's not so much of a balance as it is prioritizing and integrating. And for example, we went to the UK in 2019 in the summer, and my daughter and my husband went with me, right? I was speaking, I was doing different things. And again, Gemma plays into this because we got to spend the night at her house. She was so generous to have us there, and we got to do laundry. You know, we were traveling for like 3 weeks. It was a great break there. And for me, yes, it was kind of work, but it kind of wasn't. And my daughter got to see a very successful, driven young woman that she could probably relate to more than she could her mother. You know, I mean, moms are like, so, so to be able to integrate things like that, right? And they know I love Salesforce, and know that I love the work that I'm doing, and know that I love working with nonprofits. And when I worked as a coordinator for volunteers, you know, my daughter was 5, and she'd go, she thinks that volunteering is just what everybody does all the time, you know? So integration rather than balance, because I don't have that great a balance. I'm better when things just kind of all fit together into just one giant puzzle.
You know, I love that idea around integration versus the balance, because I used to say that work-life balance doesn't exist. And it was just, it was impossible. But, you know, the things that I've learned this year, you know, without, you know, having a commute this year, you know, there were, you know, it's like we were in the pivots we've all had to do this year. You know, there was just really the thought of like, we're just, you know, we're getting through a really tough time, and you're trying to do your job during a really tough time. And so you got to give yourself some breaks, right? And so one of the things that we've talked about a lot on my team is this idea of guilt-free PTO. It is really hard to unplug on a PTO day from everything. People are still, you know, slacking you, emailing you, you know, all those things. And you just have to turn it off. And you just have to say, I'm doing this, and I'm not going to feel guilty for doing this. You know, take time for yourself, because it's super important. Family first right now, health first. And, you know, just if you don't take care of you, who's going to do that, right? So you got to do it. And you've got to, you know, just really take that time for yourself, peace and quiet, whatever you need, because those things are all going to wait for you when you want to, you know, indulge in all that again. But it's just, I think that, you know, just PTO without guilt is definitely something to remember.
I want to echo what John was saying about guilt, because I think that's a huge thing. Like, all of the discussions around work-life balance and work-life integration are so emotionally charged, because it's filled with a bunch of assumptions that we put on ourselves about how we should be doing things, or what we owe to other people, or what the responsibilities are. And kind of taking a step back, like when you have those emotional reactions, and saying, like, does this emotion help me right now, or is it just making it harder? Every time I feel guilty, I ask myself that, like, is this guiding me to a better place, or is it just making me feel like shit? Because if it's just making me feel like shit, I'm going to choose to just put that on the shelf and not feel guilty and walk away from it. And that's helped me a lot.
I want to add on to that, Andrea. I think that is so key. And so here's the tangible tip I will give to everybody. If you're trying to think about balance, and I know there are a lot of people on this call who actually never balanced a checkbook, but in the olden days, we would write debits and credits. So you would write a check and take some dollars out, and you'd add some dollars in. And so I want you to do this exactly. So come up with a balance sheet for yourself and the things that you do all the day. And this is what made me think of it. One day it was Spirit Week at school, and, you know, they sent out this email saying, like, you know, school colors day and your favorite sports team day. And I was going to be traveling. So I said to my husband, like, you got to take care of Spirit Week. He's like, oh, I don't even know if she has any of these clothes. And that's when I realized I was the only one who had a mental clothing inventory. And that was the day that I said, I'm going to write down everything I do. I'm going to think of all the things that I do that you don't even think of doing, beyond the sort of obvious, who goes to the grocery store, who does the cooking. And when I wrote that down, I was like, well, no wonder I don't feel balanced, because I'm not balanced, because there's so many things in my debit column and nothing in my credit column. So you people need to start helping me more around here.
Too right. Did you put that up on the fridge for them all to see?
Girl, you know I did.
I love that. I love that, Shannon. I actually have something similar, but it's a calendar system to work out the schedule because there's only 24 hours in a day. But what I would say is I wholeheartedly agree with everything that everybody said, because ultimately each of us has to live our own truth and do what makes sense for our personal lives, our personal styles, beliefs, and family systems. I personally have a family first philosophy. I kind of that weaves through my entire life. It always has. The one thing that I've learned during COVID is, first of all, balance has not really ever been a part of my vocabulary, but I more so embraced the fact that my family, my children, have always been first. I've always put them number one. And early in my career, I had tremendous guilt, and it affected my confidence. I had a lot of imposter syndrome early on, especially within the first few years of college, because I always felt like I should be doing something else, but I was at odds with myself because I was a single mom for the first 13 years of my oldest son's life. And it just really wrenched me. And during COVID, I have 3 children and a grandson, and I help care for my parents. There's no way to balance it all. There's 24 hours in a day. And so I manage my life like a project, and every week is a sprint. Some sprints are good, some sprints are not so good. But ultimately, my family's at the center of that. My husband, my children, my parents, my sister, close family friends, my community, my Salesforce community, my Cactus First community. It's a family first, because after that, the work that I do balances itself out, and it helps me prioritize how I'm going to spend my days, because I only have 24 hours, just like everybody else does. And so when I'm doing my debits and my credits, and what am I responsible for, and what can I delegate and offload, and who can do this for me, it just makes it really clear. And I can tell you with confidence, and I think Melissa might agree, or if you have older children, is that everything you think you're not doing right, if you're even thinking that means you're doing it right. And your children, especially when they get older, my oldest son is constantly thanking me for being really hard on him and letting myself fall apart, or running to the bakery for baked goods when home cooked goods were expected, because I showed up and I did what I could. And even when I couldn't, he still understood, because he knew I wanted to, and he knew that it was because I loved him. And it showed even for my younger 2 children. It helps them become more independent as children. It helps them put into perspective their own lives as adults, because they have that reference of working really hard and pushing yourself, pushing your own personal boundaries to achieve not only personal satisfaction for your career and as a woman, but also as a business person. And when they go out and seek their own career goals, they can look back and say, okay, yes, I can have it all, because I get to decide what all means, and I get to define my own success.
And I love that, because I know for me, I'm a single mom, and I struggle with everything you guys have shared. I struggle, and a lot of you know that. I struggle with work-life integration, and the trip I took with my daughter, I end up working. Mornings, I'm like, okay, before we do this, mommy has to spend a couple hours working. We come back, we're taking a break. I'm just going to turn just a couple of emails, right? I struggle as much as I want to say, yeah, these are great. I think, I'm going to do it right away, starting today. As soon as this is over, I got it. I'm going to do the debits and credits. It's just sometimes, we just struggle to get into this routine. And I just feel like what I love about the community is that we will continue to push each other, so that we find that work-life integration, that we're able to do the debit and the credit and ensuring that family is first. And one of the most important things, Gemma, I don't know if you realize that, but I just want to point out that being vulnerable is also huge. And I think as women, we sometimes struggle with being vulnerable, vulnerable in private, vulnerable with our families, with our friends. And there's been several occasions where I'm crying on my daughter's shoulder.
Oh yeah.
Several occasions where I'm like crying on her shoulder, or she just sees the level of stress I'm going through. And I remember when I had to do my first live show for Marketing Cloud, she wrote me this beautiful letter, and it's on, I posted on LinkedIn. It was just encouraging me. Just my nerves were building up, and she was the one that really encouraged me to move, to push forward and to push through. So I just want to thank you, because vulnerability is something we haven't touched on. I think it's important for us to also allow ourselves to be vulnerable, just to be able to release some of the things that we're going through. I want to ask you guys though, because I know there's a lot of advice that was given, but I'm sure there are a lot of attendees that are wondering, you know, I want to be the next Gemma and Andrea and Shannon and Melissa and Marissa and Dom. You know, I see them in the space as thought leaders, as innovators, right? And this is based on the career trajectory, the path that they've taken. I want to be on a panel. Like, what advice, you know, let's be real, you know, what are some of the concrete, you know, challenges that you faced? And I think Marissa mentioned, you know, the road is never easy. What are some of the concrete advice that if you knew then what you know now, you would say, you know what, ladies, attendees, men, whoever's here, if I knew this, this is what I would have done. This is the advice somebody gave me and I didn't want to listen to them. I just decided to go on my own path, but I regret it. Like, what is some advice you would give to the attendees here that would help them with their career trajectory and their path as caregivers and as moms?
So I'll speak up here, because the perfectionism, when Tracy was sharing in the presentation that we started with,
Tracy,
yeah, about perfectionism, and I don't know why I'm that way, but I think everything should be perfect. You know, I want my house to look perfect. I want my outfit to look perfect. I want my work to be perfect. And sometimes perfect can be the enemy of good, right? I mean, if I had it to do over, because I left in the middle of a dinner party in tears at my house because my house was destroyed. You know, I look like an idiot, but it was talk about stress, right? Because, you know, I wanted my friends to think that I could do it all, and that I could, you know, keep house and be that Southern lady and cook and have a successful career and raise a child and be a good wife and be, you know, 10 foot tall and thin and bulletproof, right? And it just doesn't happen. So it doesn't have to be perfect. Your friends don't come to see, you know, they're not, if they're checking under your couch for dust bunnies, they're not your friends. You don't care, right? And as hard as that is for me, sometimes you just have to give up perfection and have it done. Y'all will see, I tweet and I do typos all the time, right? But if I don't do it in that moment and just get it out there, then I wouldn't do it. And so if I have to go back and, you know, spell check everything, it's not going to happen. So being vulnerable, right? Not being afraid of failure. I mean, I'm not as consistent as Gemma is. She's so good to write those blog posts all the time and keep up with that. And I don't. But I've written a few, and they're not perfect. They're not, you know, they're not going to win any writing awards, but I can share that. And if I wait until it's perfect, it would never be out there. So don't wait for perfection. Just do it. And done is better than perfect.
And you can't please everybody. There's always going to be someone who's not very happy with the decisions that you make, and you have to be okay with that. I've had a difficult situation myself this last week where I've had to accept that I'm going to upset some people. But tough. It's not down to them, right? It's the decision that I've made. And yeah, other women in my life are the ones who have said to me, Gemma, you're the one in charge here, you know, very strong women that I look up to. Gemma, you're in charge here, not him. And that's been hugely important and a lesson for me. Steve, and a lesson for me.
I think the thing that I've really learned about, you know, just where I'm at is because I can really thank some really wonderful, empowered women. And so I want to be one of those women too. And I want to help. One of the things that I think about a lot, you know, is who I don't want to be. You know, I want to be someone who's available to, you know, answer questions, to mentor, to be supportive. And I remember Chris Duarte wrote a blog about saying yes to coffee. And I think that it's really important to network and have coffee. I tell this, you know, I recommend this to my team all the time, you know, just to say, you know, just why don't you meet this person that you know, this person might actually really help you have a breakthrough, you know, and I'm open to, you know, the team having mentors. It doesn't all have to be, you know, it's not all, it shouldn't all be me, right? And so, yeah, yes to coffee and Peter Coffee. and yes to people that inspire you, you know, and you know, when you're in those coffee brainstorms, you know, you come up with ways to do nice things for each other, and you know, and then you elevate, you lift people up, you know, you just, you know, it's a smile or it's an opportunity. It's great.
I went to an all-girls boarding school, and one of the biggest beefs I had there was how everybody just was trying to slam each other down. I'm the one that's, you know, clever and intelligent, and I deserve recognition and blah, blah, blah. And it was exhausting for me, because I thrive in an environment where everybody can collaborate together, not where you feel like you're constantly competing with someone else. And it is a competitive industry we're in. Knowledge is a currency. You can be in a call with somebody brought in as an independent advisor, and they still don't like it when you tell them their baby's ugly, you know, and they get defensive, and it happens across everywhere. And one of the things I found that we could do better as women as well is to actually, you know, celebrate each other's successes and not.
I would love to talk about that some more, maybe for another session, because there is this prevailing sense in the culture that people are pitting women against each other, right? And this might be for another topic, but, you know, we should definitely discuss that in another session, and, you know, what we could do to push another woman forward, because I think that is definitely a challenge for us in our community.
Less so in the Salesforce community than in any other community I have ever been in. And I'm a joiner. I've been in a lot of communities. Mm-hmm. And this is the most supportive I have ever seen women be for each other. Heck and yeah. I love that.
I would say I've seen both, actually. And I agree with you, Melissa. It is much less prevalent in this community, but it does still exist.
Mm-hmm. It's, I'd like to add to what Melissa said earlier, back to your question, Gilda, about one piece of advice for people that are wanting to get out there is, again, borrowing the Nike slogan, just do it. Just do it. If you don't do it, you'll never know. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. It's okay. Shit happens. You can move on. But you'll never know if you don't try whatever it is that you want to try, whether it's entrepreneurship or a different career path or a different job or anything. It's just do it. And it's lean into the fear, lean into whatever's holding you back. It's okay to be outside of your comfort zone. I joke sometimes that I had heard somebody present once talk about, if you're not having enough oh shit moments, you're not doing something right. And then I thought, how many oh shit moments are too many? Because I hit a point where I was like, oh shit, you know, something's not going to work. And it's okay. It's okay. It challenges you, because every time you get on the other side of that, you're better. And so you have to just, again, be unapologetic. I talked about my family. My sister my mother, my grandmothers, all very unapologetic women in the choices that they make. My mom even told me the other day, she says, I don't argue because I know I'm right. And she said it very calmly. And it just, it struck me because that's how I grew up, with a lot of support from the women in my life, in my family. And that translated into my career, which Gemma, I think you can attest, or Melissa, that sometimes that doesn't go over well with people that aren't used to dealing with strong women. But it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
You can go live your truth. Just do it. Try it. If it doesn't work out, it's okay, because you can always move on and go do something else.
I want to just add on to that really quickly, is take that advice that Tracy gave us at the beginning of the call and apply that prematurely, because you'll get in your head and have imposter syndrome. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you're going to think of 1,000 reasons why you can't, right? And the people are going to tell you that because they're, you know, women-owned businesses are less funded. Women in technology, there aren't that many of us. Women entrepreneurs, there's even less of us, especially if you're intersectional and you're a woman of color. My gosh. So get out of your head ahead of time and say, like, I'm going to do it. Just try it, because I know you have at least 100 recruiters inside of your LinkedIn direct messages that will pick you up if you try it and it doesn't work. So just do it.
Yeah, and echoing that same theme, like just do it and just focus on like what the next best action is for you. Like what's the next step? Because if you spend a lot of time thinking about, I mean, you want to have a vision of where you're going, obviously, but like obsessing over exactly what that's going to look like in the future, or obsessing over like ways that the system isn't fair, or ways that you're not set up for success, it's super easy to get in your own head and kind of feel paralyzed. But like focusing on like what's the next thing that you can do, I'm into that.
Thank you all. That was some really good advice. I know I found this very helpful. I have some thinking to do. I have to revisit my life choices now. I want to thank our entire panel, of course, and JB for allowing us to spend this very important time on, you know, topics that we all cared about. Again, before we wrap up, I'm going to turn it over to JB, but for me, you guys are all inspiring. I follow and I interact with all of you. So I want to thank you for being thought leaders in this space. I want to thank you for being vulnerable. I want to thank you for sharing your stories. I want to thank you for all the amazing feedback. And for anybody that's attending, I hope it's okay if I say this, but please feel free to follow these amazing thought leaders. I know a lot of them are brand advocates, and they're having events and providing, sharing their stories as well in other means. JB, I'm going to hand it over to you. Thank you for having me be the hostess with the mostest. I call myself the Olivia Pope of Salesforce. So I'm going to transition it back to you, JB. Thanks again for allowing us to share our stories.
Thank you very much. I'm all pumped up after this session. As Gilda said, be sure to follow all these amazing women. You're sure to learn many things. So I'll be sending the social handles again in the chat one more time. And thank you, everyone, to all the panelists for sharing all your inspirational stories and being your honest self. We all needed this kind of inspiration from you all. And many times we fall, we break, and then we fail. And then we don't stop there. We will have many setbacks, but we make sure that we rise and overcome. But people like you don't just stop there, and you go on to inspire and impact a lot of people in your lives. So you are the guiding light to many people. And I really, really thank you for being there to the community and making the world a better place. Thank you very much.
Thank you, JB. Fantastic session. Thank you.
Thank you, JB.
It's an honor to have you all. So I'm sure all of you have the similar kind of feeling, and you have a lot of key takeaways from this session. We want you to spread that. So post it on the social. What are your key takeaways from this panel discussion? Be sure to mention the hashtags Trailblazer Community and the Mompreneurs, and tag me in that post. So we're going to pick the best answers, and you will be winning a swag for that.
Thank you.
And as the Mother's Day is approaching, we wanted to do a quick video. And this is for you all the women, not just who are a biological mother, because I believe there's a mom in every woman. Every woman is a mother by the virtue of her eternal divine destiny. So we all are mothers, and we wish you a very happy Mother's Day, who have given from their heart to anyone who needed it. So we all also put a video together from our allies. We needed that support, and they are there supporting us in all the times and encouraging us. Let's see this short video.
Happy Mother's Day to all the moms, caregivers, and anyone else who makes the world a better place.
Wishing all you trailblazing mothers a happy Mother's Day.
To all the moms out there, I wish you a very happy Mother's Day today.
We want to wish you a happy and healthy Mother's Day. Thank you for everything you do for your families, for the community, for the Salesforce ecosystem.
Hi there, my name is Brian Richardson, and I would like to wish
Sorry about that.
you the happiest of Mother's Days. I hope it's the best one you've ever celebrated.
Hello. Happy Mother's Day.
Wishing all the love and happiness to all our moms. Happy Mother's Day from our Anna.
Happy Mother's Day to you, who I admire and respect.
Happy Mother's Day to all of you amazing women out there. Just want to say a big thank you for everything that you do.
This Mother's Day, I want to wish you a magnificent day and a fantastic year ahead.
Hi, I'm Jen Walker. I'm here to wish you a happy Mother's Day. This Mother's Day and every day, you deserve immense gratitude.
Hello all, happy Mother's Day from RedTech Ukraine.
I would like to wish a happy Mother's Day to all the mothers on the Salesforce for HANA.
This is Andy Utkan, and I'm wishing you a fantastic Mother's Day.
And that is it. Thank you very much. And we hope you all have a wonderful Women's Day. And before we wrap up the session, we have one last activity, that's the Kahoot. So I'm gonna quickly turn it over to Isha. She's gonna run a Kahoot game. Isha, please take it over.
Oh, sure. So I'm back, guys, with my Power Dragon all together.
Oh boy.
Shannon, great. Congratulations, guys. We have the runners-ups, Jeff and Simran. Congratulations, everybody, for playing. And
that was so fun.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much, Isha. This is so lovely. So I hope you had a lot of inspiration and this session is really helpful. Thank you everyone for attending, and thank you to the panelists for sharing your honest feedback and your insights. This is really much, much needed. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
I wish everybody, if you're fasting, it isn't Ramadan, take care of yourselves.
Take care, Gemma. Bye.